when you Google menopausal woman, you get these sorts of pictures, these really sad, depressed looking, slightly older women. And it feels a little bit unfair, to be honest, because perimenopause, which is the bit kind of running up to your periods having stopped for 12 months, and that can start in your late 30s or in your 40s. This to me is more what I like to think of as these sort of people. A huge number of women are going through perimenopause and menopause while still in the workforce. We're working longer till we're 67 at least, and some of these perimenopausal women, well, one of them looks like that and has a very young child. So I definitely don't put myself in that category of the greying. I mean, I am greying by diet, older, very sad, very tired looking lady that you get when you Google menopausal woman. I am very much struggling with perimenopause and have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So that's fun. So the information we're talking about is special categories data. If you know something about someone's physical and mental health, that's special categories data, which is classed as higher risk data because of the harm that people can come to from that being, misused. So that needs stricter processing conditions and controls, a harder, higher bar to reach before you can process this information, and tighter controls around it. And I see the purpose paradox. It's when the purpose of a project or a policy or anything else, a process or anything else, isn't actually going to achieve the desired purpose because of the way that it's being handled. So the how doesn't align with the why, and it actually conflicts. You might have a great purpose for doing it, but the way you go about doing it, you end up with a real conflict. And I call that the purpose paradox. If we're going to respect privacy, there are 2 ways to go about it: reduce the data that we're actually handling and control that data. So let's start with the controls. If we're going to do it in compliance with, collecting data and using it about women in our workplace who are going through these things, we would have to be thinking about the data protection principles, the rights of data subjects, who are the people whose data we're collecting, and how we move that data around, who we share it with, where we store it, all these sorts of things. So if all of that is putting you off a little bit and thinking, if I'm going to put a policy in place and it involves collecting data about people at work and their experiences, maybe I'd like to avoid that. And let's think about how can we support people while respecting their privacy? What can we do that doesn't involve collecting data? So again, a list there so that it's there on the resource. I have a little asterisk on the bottom one because I've got open communication asterisk, meaning that bear in mind all the things from before. If you're going to be communicating, are you writing it down? Are you putting it in a system? Are you putting it in official files? Or are we just talking about, communication that doesn't come under data protection legislation? I just want to finish off with some ideas that I want to throw at people. So often, celebrations and raising money in the workplace is to do with cakes and bake sales, and bring cakes in on your birthday, and here's some cakes for your baby shower, and everything else. Great, but can we be including as well healthy options? Can we be encouraging healthy options more? And it doesn't need to be boring. They can look like cocktails like that. It can be smoothies. I was at an event in May, and one of the stalls was a smoothie bar, and it was amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. The colours and the flavours and the smells, it was awesome. It felt like a real treat, more so than the dried up pastries that were there. Are we expecting people to wear a dress code that's uncomfortable? Or can we allow people to be a little bit more comfortable, wear what they want to wear, be themselves? Are we expecting people to come into an office Or, as we've proven can happen over the last 2 years, can we work successfully from home? Do we expect everyone to log on at 9 on the dot? Or can we go with the flow a little bit more and be a bit, fluid and flexible about times? If you have colleague assistant programs, make sure everybody knows they exist and how they work and that they are confidential, so that nobody's sitting there thinking, oh, I wish there was some help, but I don't think there is any help, or I've got to ask for help and I really don't want to ask for help. Make sure people know the phone number, know the website address, so they can access that themselves without having to, put themselves out there. And celebrate World Menopause Day and all these sorts of things, and make it really clear that you are listening and you are open to improving life for women at this stage of their lives. Summary here with the action plan. If you're going to put a policy in place, be thinking about, first of all, what are you trying to achieve and why? So is it that we just want to have statistics, or which isn't a good purpose, by the way, or is it that we actually want to help people, and how are we going to help them? So the policy then, what can we put in place without collecting data? And then where we absolutely feel we do have to collect some data, you can record it, but think really, really carefully. All those points that are in the earlier slides, how are we going to keep it secure? How are we going to make sure we only collect the minimum? We don't keep it forever. All those kind of things. Make sure they're in place in your policy, and then coming down the action plan in your procedures and actions. Everything that happens on the ground, make sure it links back to that policy. Be clear about what the policy is, and then keep it under review, because there's not going to be a perfect policy. There's no such thing as a perfect policy, and it'll change all the time. Be open to that two-way communication for people telling you what's working and what's not working.